Hey, Paul George, he's made his free agency decision. Woj reporting 3:30 in the morning. PG has agreed to a 4-year, $212 million max contract to join Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, and Philly. This reminded us of an interesting moment during the NBA Finals where Embiid looked towards the future. Take a look at this.
Great city, great fans. Obviously they got some great players, but he hurts me a lot. So hopefully, this offseason we find a way to get better and, add some pieces.
Add some pieces.
How about that? Notice how he adds some pieces. He kept going like that because Paul George was right next to him.
Joel knows how to tell stories.
He does know how to tell stories. Now, that was really interesting, seeing those two on the set. Let's give us the real story of how those two got up there on the set there, Tim Bontemps.
Well, I was standing in the bowels of American Airlines Center in Dallas, Renee Noel, ahead of the game, and Joel Embiid walks around the corner and runs into me. And I said, "Oh, hey, Joel, what's going on?" We talked for a couple minutes. He meets Sergio Aguero, soccer star. And then I say, "Well, Paul George is doing countdown." And he goes, "Well, I'll go do countdown." I said, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." So then Bill Duffy, the agent, comes by, takes him to meet Sergio Ramos. Joel's a huge Real Madrid fan. So he goes and says hello to him. I think, all right, he's just going to walk away now. Comes right back over and says, "All right, where's the set? Let's go." So I take Joel Embiid up through the concourse, take him to the countdown set. Our guy Pete McConville gets him on air, and he made a little show, which is what he likes to do.
So you brokered the deal, let's be honest. It all started in that moment. The genesis of the Sixers championship starts right there in Dallas with you.
The deal was brokered slightly differently than that, but if you want to give me credit for it, that's fine.
That's fantastic. I love the side eye too as he was talking. Just looking over
at the picture was Paul George not looking at him.
Right,
like,
exactly.
I don't want to get fined.
Burke made sure he sat right next to him. It all worked out great.
Well, how about this? I want you to take a look at this because the 76ers now, when you talk about the odds, they have the third best odds now to take home the title at plus 800. They trail the Nuggets, who are plus 750. Celtics plus 300 to win it all. When you talk about 2024, 2025, give me your reaction to those odds there, Alan Hahn.
Sucker bet. No. By the way, though, as we were talking about, I love this I-95 thing that we're talking about. 3 of the top 4, right? 3 of the top 4 Eastern Conference teams for a championship. When was the last time that you could say that?
I had Hembo look it up. There's only one time in the history of the 3 franchises they've each won 50 games, which was 1981.
Wow.
So this has basically never happened where you have these 3 teams this good. It's an awesome setup for the league. As far as those odds go, you got to drop Denver. They're the biggest losers in free agency. Losing Davis, Caldwell-Pope, they're going down a ton. But you look at Philly, you look at New York, you look at Boston, you can make an argument they're the 3 best teams in the league right now.
And your biggest concern, if you're going to put money down on them, will be the injury factor, the high probability factor just built in because of Embiid and obviously Paul George as well. The availability issue is the one that would make you hesitate to say, I'll take that at plus 800.
No question.
Wendy, when you look at this move here for the Sixers, where does this, in your opinion, move them up where in the East?
Well, they're definitely behind Boston. Obviously, Boston is the king of the mountain. But after what New York did last week, locking down Mikal Bridges, Philadelphia was really in need of getting a two-way wing who could really be a star player. That is what you're going to need to figure out Boston and New York. And there was just nobody available as good as Paul George was. So it's absolutely the perfect mix. Then look, Paul George is the headline, but them locking down Kelly Oubre last night after Paul George committed. Oubre had a spectacular season last year for them. There were other teams interested in him, making sure they bring him back. Also an excellent quality two-way wing player. So they addressed just like New York, made sure they got Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. Getting the combo of Kelly Oubre and Paul George is going to help in the struggle, because it will be a struggle to deal with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Okay, so what do you think? What is this? Does this? I guess that the bigger question is, does this move the Sixers ahead of the Knicks when you talk about the battle for the East and the Celtics?
I think it's a pick your poison thing, and obviously we were talking about this earlier today. I think if you're betting on probabilities, the Knicks, because they're going to have better health and they have more depth, they have the better chance of getting to the end and being the biggest challenger to Boston. But in terms of probability of highest outcome, in terms of highest ceiling, Philly has the highest ceiling. Because if they go into a series with the Knicks, you got 3 of the 4 best players on the court. And that's why you get these guys together. It's why Daryl Morey's always gone star hunting, right? Ultimately in the NBA, you win with stars. Now, there's huge questions about the health. There's huge questions about the rest of the supporting cast. So getting Andre Drummond to spell Joel Embiid was big. Getting Eric Gordon at a minimum was big. Getting Kelly Oubre was huge. He gives them a legitimate two-way option at the shooting guard spot between Maxey and Paul George. But, again, I think really getting this done puts them second for me because I'm going by ultimate championship upside. And they, to me, I think these are the three best teams in the league. Like the Eastern Conference last year, everybody was knocking the East, saying the West is so much better. Yeah. It's Boston and everybody else. There are three legitimate teams atop the East now, and as a basketball fan, I think that's awesome. Like, I'm super excited for them, this season.
What about your Knicks? Because Hartenstein hasn't signed yet.
That is the other huge key. What happens is Isaiah Hartenstein in this free agency? Because if the Knicks lose him, they got Mitchell Robinson, who had a ton of injuries, and then nothing after.
And then the options to get a backup center are not really that. I mean, again, you've seen teams that are starting to pick up centers, and the Knicks aren't going to get one that's high enough level of somebody like a Hartenstein. The fact, though, that he didn't sign last night, the Thunder went to see him in Oregon. Like, they visited him personally and then left. The fact that he didn't agree to anything last night gives the Knicks some hope as they're trying to tug at his emotional heartstrings and say, hey, you know, you can be part of something special here in New York, even though it's for a discount. But it's still always going to be about Joel Embiid with the Sixers, right? That's what it's about. If this is on paper or on 2K, the Sixers obviously have the most talent based on that. But because it's not played on paper, it's played on hardwood, we all know that Joel Embiid is not there at the end of the season, no matter what. He runs into that brick wall in the second round. Paul George has taken the Pacers to back-to-back conference finals. We've seen him do that and earlier in his career as well. He also got the Clippers to a conference final as well when Kawhi got injured. So we know he can get over that hump. It's just now getting to the finals for him. So is it that they can survive those minutes? They were minus 47 with Embiid off the court in that first-round series against the Knicks. The Knicks had no answer for Embiid, even on one leg. They couldn't defend him. So that's why, yes, you put them ahead of the Knicks on paper. But what the Knicks have that the Sixers don't is depth, and that's number one most importantly. And then the switchability of so many different players. He can play different types of lineups. But you're right. If Hartenstein does not return to this team, it does put the Knicks in a deficit when it comes to trying to guard that guy.
So when you look at this new Sixers squad, when we talked about pressure, who's got the more pressure? Is it Embiid? Is it Paul George now? Because you can obviously look at Embiid and say, hey, look, you know.
It's Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid has been the MVP of the league, right? He's one of the five best players on the planet. Like, he's the guy that if you're looking at it and you're saying, you know, if the Sixers go on to win the title, obviously it'd be a huge thing for Paul George. Paul George is going to the Hall of Fame. It's the one thing he hasn't done is win a title. But Joel Embiid would be like when Dirk won, like when Jokic won, like when Giannis won, any of these guys, when you know, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown now, right? If you're bumping up against it for years and then you win it, that's the last thing you got to cross off. For that, this is all about, can Joel Embiid get over the finish line, and that comes down again to health. Like, he hasn't been healthy in these playoffs, even last year.
Which is why he shouldn't play in the Olympics. Well, he shouldn't.
Whether he should or not.
I know he's gonna, but he shouldn't.
I'm going to see him this weekend in Las Vegas, and I'm sure he's going to be very excited about the addition of Paul George. But look, this is all set up for them. They've got the high-end ceiling now. They have to go up against Boston, but to your point, they don't have anybody to guard them.
How close are they to Boston?
They're close.
Because Porzingis keeping the eye. He's out for 6 months.
Yeah, that's big.
They're close. I think Boston is still the best team in the league. I think Boston is going to win the title. Again, we're all assuming everybody's healthy by the end because there's no other point. But Philadelphia has the ability to go toe-to-toe with them in a way nobody could last year. You've got an elite two-way wing, like Brian said, that you could throw in those guys and Paul George. You've got Tyrese Maxey, who exploded last year, is only going to get better, is a dynamic off-the-ball scorer or off-the-bounce scorer and shooter. And then you've got Embiid. They have nobody to guard Joel Embiid. Right. Kristaps Porzingis can't. Al Horford at this point can't. Yeah. Luke Cornett can't. Like, he's going to feast inside.
Two wings to go up against their wings, right? Because Oubre, as Wendy pointed out, Oubre's an excellent wing defender.
They don't have the depth, but they have the high-end ceiling. They've got three all-stars on their team. And like Brian said earlier, Paul George had an unbelievable season last year for the Clippers.
Yeah.
It's a massive thing for him to land on this team.
And Philly's got the coaching, too.
Yeah, they do have great coach and Nick Nurse. Yeah. Wendy, give you a final word on this.
The Sixers still have several open roster spots and some maneuvers they have to make. We're not judging their complete team yet. So let's see where everybody... Also, the Knicks haven't executed the Mikal Bridges trade yet. They still can expand that trade and do some things. Their roster isn't done yet. So let's just see where everybody is in another 3 to 5 days, and before you can really give a full accounting of where you think the East shakes out.
All right, point taken. This morning's wake.